Hey guys, Del here, and today I'm going to show you how to make a granny square. It's a very basic thing in crochet. You can use it for lots of stuff, and it's really simple to make, and it'll also introduce you to some concepts that you'll use lots, like working in the round and corners, corner increases. An increase is when you need extra stitches to make successive rows bigger. So here's one I've made earlier. And I've used different colour yarn for each row so you can see clearly what each row is. So this is the first row, and you can see each row is just made up of groups of 3 DC stitches, double crochet if you're in the US and treble if you're in the UK. I'm going to stick with DC, the US term. So we start with what looks like a flower of 4 petals with the corner, and then the next row is just more groups of 3 DC stitches. And then the next row up the top you've got the corner 3, and then 3 in the middle, and then the corners again. So it follows the basic principle of you have one group of 3 in the middle in a space, you always crochet into the spaces, and then on the corner you have 2 groups of 3 with a chain 3 crochet in the middle, and there's a chain 1 in between the middle groups across the line. So only work into the spaces, which will become clearer as I show you how to do it. Chain 3 on the corner and chain 1 between the middle bits. So let's get started. Just made a slip knot the same way as you always start, and we're going to chain 6 to start. And I'm working in front of the camera's in front of me, so I'm going to be a little slow because it's difficult to see what I'm doing. So chain 6 to start, and then we're going to make this into a circle. So pull the end around and put your hook under the first chain, top 2 loops of the first chain. So the back loop is on the back of the hook. Move the tail out of the way, yarn over, pull this through. So that's our circle, and then we're going to start with a chain 3, and this will count as 1 DC stitch. That's the correct height for a DC stitch, is a chain 3. And then we're going to do another 2 DC into this circle. So pull your tail around and just hold it against the back there. We're going to crochet over it. So DC is yarn over, hook through, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. And then one more time, another DC. So with the chain and the 2 DCs, this is a cluster group of 3 there. And now we chain 3 to make a corner. Oops, need to hold this further away from the camera for it to stay in focus, and I'm actually dropped my wool off the edge there. And then another 3 DC together. One, 2, and there's my boyfriend sneaking very quietly across the floor not to make any noise, so if you hear someone tiptoeing, that's him. 3. So that's the first 3, chain 3, and then another 3. So chain 3 for the next corner. They are squares, so they will have 4 corners. And the next 3 DC. I keep pulling the crochet closer to the camera out of habit. Because I'm sort of crocheting it at arm's length here. It's kind of awkward. But hopefully you can follow what I'm doing. So that's 3 groups of 3. And another chain 3. For the third corner, and then we're going to do our last group of 3 DCs. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of DCs, 3 corners, and the last corner we chain 3, and then you find the third chain of the first chain 3 you did, and poke the hook through. This is going to be difficult for me to see from here. Yarn over and just slip stitch into that one, so go straight through there. So this is the middle of our granny square, this bit in grey here. Now you won't see these corners, we're going to crochet over them in the next round. So you've got a little flower shape now, so in a nice square. So to make the next round, I'll also show you how to change colours, but I'll do that the round after. So the next round we want to start in a corner space, so if you're keeping with the same colour you need to slip stitch into these next 2 DC stems there and into the chain 3 space. So we'll slip stitch into top of the next DC, just pull it through, then pull it through, and then slip stitch into the last one, and then slip stitch into the chain 3 space there. So now we're starting on the corner. So we chain 3, always chain 3 at the start of a DC because that's the DC height. So that counts as the first DC, and then we do 2 more. And if you remember, I was saying that on the corners, as you can see here, we do a group of 2. So that's one group of DCs, then we chain 3. Let me see if I can move a little bit, there you go. And then we do the next group. And that's 1, 2, 3. So that's our corner, a right angle there. And now we chain 1, and then there's no gap there, the next gap is the next corner, so we move straight on to the next corner. And we do 3 DCs, 1, I'm going a little bit faster now because I'm just doing the same thing over and over, and you don't need to see me making a DC stitch every time. So that's 3, and then we chain 3, and then do the next 3, so now we've got half of it done, we've got 2 corners there. So chain 1, move on to the next corner, oops, so 2 groups of 3 DCs again with a chain 3 in the middle. It's 1, 2, 3, and then chain 3, then the next 3, 1, 2, and I'm using chunky wool here, it's nice and big so you can see the stitches and hopefully see more clearly what I'm doing. 3, so that's 3 corners, and then we chain 1, go to the last corner and do our 2 lots of 3 DCs, 2, 3, and chain 3, 3, and then chain 1, and then again you just slip stitch into the top of your chain 3 here. So you can see two DCs there and the chain 3. So this stitch is the top of the last DR. If I turn it so you can see the V's, this is the second one, so it's the chain after that you want to slip stitch into. It can be quite tough, and sometimes you need to wiggle the hook through just to get it through 2 loops of the chain. There you go. Oops, no. Stubborn. There. So I'm going to change colour now for you to see how to change colours. So I'm just going to pull another stitch through there so that when I cut it and pull it, it'll be tight. So that's that. Let me grab another colour and grab a light green so that it's contrasting. So slip stitch, as I showed you in the first tutorial video, get your loop on the hook. So we're going to start, cut this off here at the back so that it's out of the way. We need to be starting in a corner, so I'm going to start in this corner just so that I can crochet over the tail in this section and then crochet over this tail in the next section. So put your hook through the corner and slip stitch on. So you yarn over, pull through, and then pull through there, and then pull your tail tight to secure the loop, and then chain 3. Then hold your tail across the top, so we crochet over it, and I've shown this in one of the previous videos too. And then we do our 2 lots of 3DC. 1, 2. Remember that chain at the start counts as 1. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and then chain 3. And do the next 3. Still crocheting over your tail. And then we chain 1. And now we've got a gap in the middle to work into, so the next lot of DC is going to be into that gap. And we'll ignore this tail, keep it out of the way. And now you can drop this tail too, not to carry it across the row of 3 there. So just 3 DCs into this chain 1 space that you made in the previous round. And then chain 1 again after you finish those 3, and now we move on to this corner. You can pick up this tail, two, 3, and then chain 3, and then the next 3, and then chain 1. Move on to the next space, do a group of 3. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, move on to the corner. So this is all you do all the way around, is these groups of DCs, and you'll notice when you're crocheting things it's all about repeating patterns and repeating sequences of stitches. So you do the same thing all the way around until you get this. So 3 DC, chain 3, 3 DC into every corner, chain 1 between the groups, chain 3 DC into this chain 1 spaces. So in the next round after this one we'll have this again in the corner, so it will be 2 groups of 3 DC. Oops, it's focusing on that. 2 groups of 3 DC with a chain 3 in the middle, exactly like this. Then you'll have chain 1 and 3 DC there, chain 1 and 3 DC there, and then the corner again. So every round you're increasing the number of single groups because the number of spaces increases. So the next round you'll have 2 single groups, the round after you'll have 3 single groups, and then always the group of 2 on the corner. And that's how you make a granny square. And in the next video I'll show you how to join the granny squares, which will be handy. And then you can use these to do all kinds of things. You can make coasters with just the one, or you can join 6 together and make a bigger placemat. You can make a long stripe of them and do a scarf. You can join them into make a triangular shape with them. Do a row of squares, then decrease it by 2, and then do another row, and all the way down until you get a point, and you can make a nice shawl. You can make bags with them. You do say 6, and then 6 on the other side, and then just stitch up the edges and maybe sew a lining inside, and then you've got a nice pouch. So anything you can make with lots of squares joined together you can use the granny square for. And even though it's quite basic, they can be nice and colourful. You can use a different colour for each row. You can use 2 colours and alternate, so you've got stripes. You can do 7 rows and make a rainbow. Lots of stuff you can do. So that's the granny square. I hope that video was okay. It's a new camera, it's a bit bigger than the last one, and doesn't focus quite as closely, so it's a bit more awkward to film, but hopefully you get the gist and you can make your own granny squares from there. And don't worry if your first square looks like some weird thing that you've dragged through a hedge backwards. My first few granny squares were terrible and misshapen and all over the place, but keep at it and you will get there, and you'll have nice square shaped granny squares in no time. Thanks for watching, bye!